Emily froze in front of the mirror, her breath hitching in her throat. She hadn't moved, but her reflection just had. A slow, deliberate smile crept across its face, one she wasn't making. The room behind her looked the same, yet different, darker, deeper. And then the reflection raised a hand and waved. That was when she realized whatever was in the mirror wasn't her. If you stare long enough into a mirror, it starts to stare back. At least, that's what 9-year-old Emily told herself one rainy evening as she stood barefoot in front of the tall hallway mirror. Thunder cracked in the distance, but the house was otherwise silent. Too silent. Her parents were downstairs arguing in hushed tones again, and her older brother was glued to his headphones, completely unaware of what she was seeing. Because tonight, the girl in the mirror was not Emily. Emily blinked. The reflection blinked a second later. She tilted her head to the left. The reflection tilted right. Then it smiled. Emily did not smile. The Caldwell family had just moved into the house 2 weeks earlier. A large Victorian mansion on the edge of a sleepy town. The house was everything her parents had dreamed of. High ceilings, old fireplaces, and a dozen antique mirrors lining the hallways and bedrooms. "It's a steal," her father had said, patting the real estate agent on the back. "Practically a museum." But Emily didn't care about the price or the history. The first night she slept in her new room, she woke up to the sound of whispering. There was no one there. She told her mom the next morning. Her mom brushed it off as settling noises. Old houses did that, apparently. Creaks and groans, pipes and floorboards. But Emily knew better. Settling noises didn't whisper her name. Emily. That same voice whispered again the following night. It came from the wall. No, through the wall. And every night since, it got a little louder, a little closer. She began sleeping with the covers over her head and the light on. Her brother teased her for it, but she didn't care. She had a feeling something wasn't right with this house. And now the mirror. The girl in the reflection looked like her. Same golden hair, same freckled cheeks. But there was something off. The eyes were a little too wide, the smile a little too sharp. Emily ran downstairs that night and told her mom what she saw. Her mother, still stressed from unpacking and snapping at her husband, just sighed. "Sweetheart, you're overtired. You've got to stop scaring yourself." "I swear she was real," Emily cried. "She waved at me." Her father gave her a hug, but he too looked more tired than concerned. "Mirrors play tricks in the dark. It's just your imagination. Pumpkin." No one believed her. But the girl in the mirror came back the next night. This time, she didn't wave. She beckoned. Meanwhile, something else was happening in the house. Emily's brother Jack started waking up with scratches on his arms. He blamed their cat until they found the cat locked in the laundry room one night. Mrs. Caldwell began misplacing things. Her keys, her wedding ring, even the silverware items disappeared, only to turn up days later in strange places. The attic, the back of closets, and once inside the oven. Mr. Caldwell's reflection one morning didn't move when he did. Just for a second. He laughed it off. "Man, I need more sleep." But from then on, he stopped looking in the mirror altogether. And Emily started talking to the girl in the mirror. The girl called herself Elia. She said she was lonely, that she'd lived in the house for a long time, that she liked Emily. "I can be your friend," Ilya whispered one night. Her voice echoed from the mirror like it traveled through water. "I know you feel alone. I feel it too." "How did you get in there?" Emily asked, wide-eyed. "I was born here," Ilya said, smiling softly. "Long ago. But now I'm trapped. The mirror is my door. Can't you come out?" Ilya hesitated. "Not yet." Emily felt bad for her. She knew what it was like to feel invisible. Her parents constantly distracted, her brother always rolling his eyes. Ilya listened. She cared. But the more Emily talked to her, the colder the room felt. The air became heavy. Her dreams twisted into nightmares. One night, Ilya asked, "Do you want to come see my world?" Emily paused. "What do you mean?" "You could visit just once. I could show you where I live." "How?" Ilya reached toward the glass, her hand pressing against the inside of the mirror. Emily did the same. Her palm touched the surface, cool, smooth, solid. And then it moved. The mirror rippled like water under her hand. She gasped and pulled away. "Don't be afraid," Ilya whispered. "It only hurts a little." Emily ran. Downstairs, the parents began arguing more often. Mr. Caldwell had started locking doors, including the hallway closet with the large mirror Emily had first seen Ilya in. Mrs. Caldwell started reading about the house's history, muttering things under her breath. "I found something," she said one night, urgently showing her husband an old newspaper article. "There was a fire here. In 1891, a little girl died. She was found inside a mirror-lined room. They never figured out how she got in there." Mr. Caldwell stared at the article, pale. "Maybe we should have the place blessed." But it was too late. That same night, every mirror in the house fogged up at once. Then they started to whisper. The mirrors whispered all night. Not in words at first, more like breathy hisses, soft and low, just beneath hearing, as if the house itself were murmuring secrets through the walls. Emily sat upright in her bed, covers clutched tight under her chin. She stared at the mirror across from her closet door, where Ilya usually appeared. But tonight, the mirror showed only darkness, not the usual reflection, not even the faint outline of the room. It was black, like someone had turned off the world behind it. Then the hissing stopped. A single knock came from inside the glass. "Knock, knock," Emily whimpered. "Ilya." Silence. Then came a whisper. This time she heard it clearly. "Let me in." Downstairs, her parents were wide awake. The mirrors in the living room, bathroom, and kitchen had all fogged up, yet there was no steam, no change in temperature. Mr. Caldwell rubbed at one with a dish towel, only to find the fog returning instantly. It spelled out a word, a name, Ilya. Mrs. Caldwell dropped her coffee cup. The shatter echoed through the house. They were both silent for a moment. "All right," Mr. Caldwell finally muttered. "That's enough." He walked into the hallway closet, grabbed a sheet, and covered the largest mirror, the antique one framed in black wood and brass roses. The moment the fabric touched the glass, the room seemed to breathe out. The air shifted just slightly, as if something had retreated. "Tomorrow," he said, "I'm taking that thing down. It's going in the basement." But the mirror had other plans. That night, Emily dreamed of glass, endless hallways of mirrors stretching into darkness. She wandered barefoot, cold and disoriented. Each reflection she passed showed her something different. Not herself, but twisted versions of her life. In one, her family sat at dinner, but no one had eyes. In another, she stood in the hallway mirror, screaming, pounding to get out, while the real Emily looked in from the outside, frozen, unable to help. At the end of the hall stood Ilya. She wore a tattered white dress and a crooked smile. Her eyes gleamed like cracked marbles. She didn't speak, but her mouth moved silently. When Emily woke, her window was open, and the mirror was uncovered again. The next day, Mr. Caldwell tried to remove the big hallway mirror. He grunted and cursed as he unscrewed it from the wall, sweat dripping down his neck. But as soon as he lifted the frame off its hooks, he cried out and dropped it. The glass hadn't shattered. It had burned him. He stared at the angry red welt on his palm, shaped eerily like a handprint. Mrs. Caldwell, now visibly shaken, called the local church and asked for a priest to bless the house. He wouldn't be available until the weekend. That gave them 3 more nights. Jack, Emily's brother, finally started to pay attention. He had been brushing off the strange occurrences until his phone screen, while taking a selfie, captured a figure standing behind him in the mirror. He had been alone. He ran to Emily's room, pale, shaking. "Okay, you win. Something's wrong with this house." Emily nodded. "It's Ilya." They sat on the floor with flashlights and whispered. Jack didn't believe in ghosts, but he couldn't deny the scratches, the voices, or the way every mirror in the house seemed to shimmer when no one was looking directly at it. "Why does she want you?" he asked. "She says she's trapped, that she wants a friend." Jack frowned. "That's what demons say in horror movies, Em." Emily glanced nervously at the mirror. She doesn't feel like a demon, but even as she said it, she wasn't sure. Later that evening, Mrs. Caldwell dug deeper into the house's past. In the dusty town library archives, she found more articles. The girl who died in the fire, Ilya Ashford, hadn't just died in the house. She had died in a mirror. The old article read like something out of a nightmare. Authorities recovered the body of 9-year-old Ilya Ashford behind a sealed mirror in the Ashford estate's upper floor. No known entry point existed. Her hands were bloodied, as if she had been scratching to get out. There were whispers, even then, about mirrors being doors, and how the Ashfords had dabbled in spirit, communication, and occult rituals. A quote from a neighbor stuck with Mrs. Caldwell. She was always talking to someone who wasn't there. She'd wave to her reflection like it was another girl entirely. Mrs. Caldwell closed the book slowly. They had made a terrible mistake moving into this house. Back home, Emily was once again standing in front of the hallway mirror. Ilya was there, clearer than ever. Her eyes were wide, unblinking. "Soon," she whispered. "Soon what?" Emily asked. "You'll see." The mirror began to ripple again, not just under Emily's hand this time, but across the entire surface. It looked like water, trembling and alive. Emily stepped back, heart pounding. Ilya reached forward. Her hand pushed through the glass. Just the fingers, pale, wet-looking fingers, curled over the edge of the frame, dripping with condensation. Emily screamed. Jack ran in, saw the hand, and grabbed his sister, yanking her away. The hand vanished, but the mirror stayed rippling. They covered every mirror in the house that night. Sheets, towels, blankets, anything they could find. Mr. Caldwell even tried taping cardboard over some of them. But when they woke the next morning, every covering was on the floor, and every mirror read the same message, written in fog: "Let me out." The house felt colder now. Not just a winter chill or a draft through the old wood. This was a presence. The kind that slithered under your skin, tightening your chest and clouding your thoughts. No matter how bright the lights were, the corners of every room seemed darker, as if shadows were being pulled towards something hungry. The Caldwells sat around the living room, a tight silence hanging between them. Every mirror in the house had been covered, and Mr. Caldwell had even nailed shut the large antique one. But still, Emily could hear it. Late at night, the mirrors whispered her name over and over. Emily. Emily. She hadn't slept in 2 days. Jack spent the morning researching mirror folklore. He scribbled notes furiously in a notebook. Mirror portals, spirit traps, reflective gateways. He looked up, wide-eyed. Did you know some cultures believe mirrors are windows to the spirit world? That every time you look into one, you're really staring at another version of yourself, one that could take your place. Emily didn't answer. She was staring at the mirror in her hand, a small, round compact from her backpack she had forgotten about. And Elia was staring back, not waving, not smiling, just watching, her face pressed close, fogging up the inside of the glass. Emily snapped it shut, heart racing. She never goes away, she whispered. That night, the family gathered in Emily's room. Her parents had moved her bed to the middle of the floor, away from any walls. Jack taped over the closet mirror 3 times. Still, no one felt safe. Mrs. Caldwell knelt beside Emily, brushing her hair gently. "We'll get help tomorrow. The priest is coming. We'll get this thing out of our house." Emily didn't respond. Her eyes were on the mirror above her dresser. It had been covered. Now it wasn't. Jack noticed it too. Wait, didn't I? The mirror began to fog. A handprint appeared on the inside. Then another, and another. Soon the mirror was filled with dozens of smeared, grasping palms. Emily's voice trembled. "Those aren't all Elia's hands." They removed the mirror and threw it outside. It shattered on the driveway, glass exploding across the concrete. But instead of relief, an echo followed them back into the house. A sound like splintering wood and distant screaming, coming from nowhere and everywhere at once. "Something's changed," Mrs. Caldwell said. "She's getting stronger." Jack sat by the kitchen table, flipping through his notes. "Listen to this," he said, reading aloud. "When a spirit crosses the veil through a mirror, it's no longer trapped by one reflection. It can move through any reflective surface. Water, glass, even eyes." Emily stared at the sink's faucet, at the glimmer of herself reflected in the metal. She turned away quickly, heart hammering. That evening the priest arrived, Father Nolan, a short, broad man with tired eyes, a worn Bible, and the kind of calm you find in people who've seen things they'll never explain. He walked the hall slowly, taking stock of the air, the temperature, the silence between floorboards. "There is something old in this house," he said. "Something that was called and not properly dismissed." He insisted on performing a cleansing ritual at once. He started with the largest mirror, the antique one Mr. Caldwell had nailed shut. But when they entered the hallway, the mirror was uncovered again. The nails were lying neatly on the floor, bent into delicate spirals. Father Nolan didn't flinch. He stepped forward, murmuring in Latin, flicking holy water at the glass. The mirror rippled. He pressed his crucifix to it, and for a split second, the mirror turned black. Not just reflective, void. Father Nolan jerked back. His hands were steaming. "Whatever is in there," he said through clenched teeth, "is not just a lost soul. It's an echo of something darker." Emily stared into the mirror and Elia appeared once more. But this time, she wasn't alone. Behind her stood others, faces half missing, eyes gouged out, mouths open in silent screams. Mirror people, countless of them. Some were children. Some looked like versions of themselves, distorted and burned. Emily screamed. The mirror cracked, not shattered, just a thin, jagged crack down the center, like a scar. "She's breaking through," Father Nolan said. "We don't have much time." That night, no one slept. The walls groaned, the house shifted, and the mirrors began singing. A soft, eerie lullaby, sung in dozens of voices, some high, some gravelly, all off-key and echoing as if from underwater. Emily huddled in the center of the living room with her family. Even Father Nolan sat with them, clutching his rosary, eyes locked on the blacked-out television screen. It flickered, just once, and for a heartbeat, their reflections in the screen turned to face away from them. Then the power went out. They lit candles and sat in silence. Emily kept her compact mirror clutched tightly in her lap, wrapped in cloth, but she could still feel it pulsing, like it was alive. Father Nolan stood. "It's time." "Time for what?" Mr. Caldwell asked. "To finish the ritual. We end it tonight." He led them to the hallway, to the cracked antique mirror. Candles flickered violently as he began chanting in Latin, voice rising with every phrase. The mirror rattled on the wall. Something behind it screamed, high and sharp, like metal tearing. Elia appeared again, but she was different now. Taller, her dress soaked in shadow, her eyes glowing faintly red. She reached toward the glass, not to escape, but to invite. "Come, join us," she whispered. Emily stepped forward. For a moment she felt her feet lifting, as if being pulled through. "Emily, no!" Jack shouted, grabbing her just in time. The mirror exploded in a blast of cold wind and blinding light. Glass flew in every direction. The candles blew out. When the smoke cleared, the mirror was gone. Only the scorched outline of its frame remained on the wall. They slept in the living room that night, huddled together like survivors. But none of them spoke about what they saw in the mirror right before it shattered. That it wasn't just Elia anymore. It was Emily's face in the glass, staring back, smiling. It had been 3 days since the mirror shattered, but the house hadn't returned to normal. In fact, things had grown worse. There were no mirrors left, not even the tiniest reflective surface. Every screen, window, metal fixture had been covered or removed. And yet, somehow, the reflections still found a way. It began with Jack. He was brushing his teeth in the bathroom, using a piece of cardboard to cover the polished faucet. But for a second, just a blink, he saw something in the corner of his eye. His reflection blinked twice. He stared at the covered faucet. No mirror, no screen, nothing that should have shown him himself. Still, his stomach turned cold. From then on, he avoided being alone, especially in the dark. Meanwhile, Emily had grown quiet. She hardly spoke, hardly ate. She spent most of her time in the attic, sitting cross-legged on the floor, staring at nothing. Father Nolan stayed in the house, deeply disturbed by what he called a tethered soul. Elia, he said, is no longer the only one connected to the mirrors. He meant Emily. They all knew it. Mrs. Caldwell tried to coax her daughter back to normalcy. She read to her, played soft music, sat beside her, pretending things were fine. But Emily wasn't there. Not really. Sometimes her mother would glance up and see Emily's eyes glazed, lips moving, whispering to someone no one else could see. That night, Mr. Caldwell was awakened by the sound of footsteps in the hallway. Careful, barefoot, not his own. He rose slowly and peeked through the door. Emily stood in the dark, her face turned toward the blackened TV screen in the living room. She was talking. I know, I saw them too. Pause. They're scared. But I'm not. I understand now. Pause. No, not yet. But I will. Mr. Caldwell stepped into the hallway, his voice shaking. Emily. She turned sharply, startled, like she'd been caught doing something wrong. Her eyes shimmered with something off. I was just looking, she said quietly. They said I'm almost ready. Jack became obsessed with stopping it, with saving her. He turned their garage into a command center. Whiteboards filled with notes, threads connecting mirror, mythology to demonology, folklore to modern hauntings. Everything connects, he said, showing Father Nolan his findings. These things aren't ghosts, they're reflections, hollow versions of us, born in the dark parts of our minds. They mimic us until the line between real and false breaks. Father Nolan nodded grimly. And once the false becomes strong enough, it replaces the real. They looked upstairs where Emily had been humming softly for hours without pause. The same lullaby the mirrors used to sing. The priest decided on one final ritual, something ancient and dangerous. We must confront her reflection directly, destroy the bond while she's awake, before it finishes merging. He needed one unbroken mirror. Jack found it at a neighbor's trash pile, a tall, cracked antique piece, dusty and discarded. They set it in the attic where the veil was thinnest. Emily didn't resist. In fact, she smiled. I've been waiting for this, she whispered. She stood in front of the mirror. Her eyes were wide, eager. Father Nolan began the chant, candlelight flickering violently. At first, the mirror was dark. Then, Elia appeared. Then others, dozens, hundreds, all versions of Emily, twisted, smiling, weeping, bloodied. One stepped forward. It looked exactly like her. Who are you? The priest demanded. The figure smiled. The part of her that's always watched, always waited. Emily stood motionless. Then the reflection spoke again. But this time, its lips didn't move. Emily's did. They were never trying to come through, she said, voice distant, hollow. They were waiting for me to go to them. The reflection raised its hand. So did Emily. Father Nolan threw holy water at the glass. It hissed and bubbled, smoke rising. But it was too late. Emily stepped forward. Her hand touched the mirror, and the glass swallowed her whole, screaming, crashing, wind like a hurricane. The attic lights exploded, the mirror shattered, and Emily was gone. Only her echo remained, a faint giggle fading slowly. Mrs. Caldwell arrived seconds later, falling to her knees, sobbing. But Emily wasn't there, only her reflection. In every shard of broken glass on the floor, her face stared back up at them, still smiling. That night, the house wept. Every surface that could reflect, water in the pipes, silverware, glass fragments, shimmered with glimpses of her, not moving, not blinking, just watching. Father Nolan said little. He packed his things, leaving only a single note. You must not let her call others. Reflections spread. Jack collected the shards and buried them. But the next morning, they were back, neatly arranged on the floor in the attic, forming a perfect circle. Inside the circle, a message scratched into the wood. I see you. Emily's bedroom remained untouched. Sometimes, her parents swore they heard footsteps upstairs, a drawer opening, the faint sound of breathing, or the soft lullaby playing again from nowhere. Jack left a camera running one night, just once. He couldn't bring himself to watch the footage at first. When he finally did, it showed 13 hours of nothing, until 3:03 a.m. The video flickered. Emily walked into frame, but she didn't walk in. She stepped out, crawling from the mirror they had removed weeks ago. She stared at the camera, then smiled. The feed cut to black, and when Jack checked the camera, the lens was cracked. From the inside, the house had grown impossibly silent. No creaking floors, no wind tapping the windows, no breath from the people inside. Just the stillness, like the moment before a scream. Jack hadn't slept in days. He barely spoke, and when he did, his voice was low, as if afraid something might be listening. Emily was gone, but not gone. She had become something else. Every reflection now carried a whisper of her. The television screen, when powered off, a drop of water clinging to the faucet, even the shine in someone's eyes. She was always there, watching, waiting, beckoning, and the message kept appearing. I see you, sometimes scratched into mirrors, sometimes on the inside of windows, sometimes in handwriting that wasn't human. Jack stood in the attic again, in the circle of mirror shards he had buried, now mysteriously unearthed and perfectly arranged. In the center lay a photo, an old family picture of them all smiling. But Emily's face had changed. Her eyes were too wide, her grin too sharp, and her hands, on closer inspection, weren't hers at all. They were bony, gray, with elongated fingers. He picked it up. Beneath the photo, carved into the floorboards, were 3 words. Bring them back. Jack gathered his parents. We have to go back, he said. Mrs. Caldwell shook her head. Back? To what? She's gone, Jack. No, she's there. Not dead. Not alive either. But we can reach her. I know how. Mr. Caldwell was silent. He had stopped believing in plans. But he followed anyway, because even fear is better than helplessness. They returned to the attic that night. The storm outside had picked up, thunder crawling across the sky like something ancient awakening. Jack had rebuilt the mirror piece by piece, a mosaic of Emily, 1,000 reflections of her stitched together. He placed candles around the circle, each with a drop of blood, their blood, to bind the ritual. And in the center, her music box, the one that had first played the lullaby. He wound it once. Click, click, click. The tune began. And then the mirror pulsed. Light flickered. The shards glowed faintly blue. The wind inside the room spun in circles, sucking the air from their lungs. Then the glass rippled, like water. Hand reached through. It was hers, pale, shaking, human. Emily's voice came next, faint, distant, but real. Jack. He ran to the mirror. Em, I'm here. Grab my hand. But when he touched her fingers, they were cold. Not just cold, empty, hollow like glass. Behind her, dark figures emerged. The mirror people, each one of them a distorted echo, a mimic, a puppet of some memory long lost. They pressed behind her like a wave ready to break. Jack, she said again, they won't let me go unless someone takes my place. Mrs. Caldwell screamed, No, no one is taking her place. But Jack hesitated. His sister's eyes pleaded. The mirror people hissed behind her, reaching forward, clawing at the edges of the mirror like dogs on a leash. Father Nolan's warning echoed in Jack's mind. Reflections spread. The bond must be broken, not fed. He turned to his parents. We're not trading anyone. We're ending this. He poured salt into the circle, lit the final candle, held up a hammer. Mrs. Caldwell trembled. Jack, what are you? The only way to close the doorway is to shatter the vessel. The mirror screamed, not cracked, not creaked, it screamed. The glass twisted, forming faces. Dozens of Emilys, hundreds of others, all wailing, pleading, begging not to be broken. But Jack raised the hammer. Em, he whispered, I love you, but you're not there anymore. No, she cried. Please, I'm still me. Don't leave me here. And for a moment, just a moment, he saw her. The real Emily, tears streaming down her face. Jack. His hand trembled. Then Mrs. Caldwell stepped beside him, took his hand. Together, they brought the hammer down. Crash. The mirror exploded into light. Shards flew like bullets across the attic. The music box wound down, the lullaby slowing, then stopping. The wind ceased. The blue glow vanished. Silence returned. Emily was gone. No reflections remained. Not in the glass, not in the water, not in the air. Just nothing. The days after were strange. The family moved far away. New house, no mirrors, no reflective surfaces. People asked about the daughter. They said she died in an accident. No one asked further. Some things are better left unknown. But Jack couldn't forget. Sometimes he'd wake up and see condensation on the window. He'd wipe it away, and for a second, he'd see her. Not distorted, not evil, just watching, still smiling, waiting. Years passed, and one day a girl named Mia, Jack's daughter, found an old music box in the attic. She wound it up. It played a familiar tune, soft, distant, lulling. Jack ran up the stairs, eyes wide, heart pounding. Mia, he whispered. "Where did you find that?" She turned to him, smiling. "In the corner, by the mirror." Jack's blood froze. "There's no mirror in this attic," he said. Mia looked confused, then pointed to the far wall, and Jack saw it. Fresh pane of glass, clean, untouched, and in it, Emily, smiling.